Hey, Steve, welcome back. I really appreciate you being with me and sharing your knowledge on hearing aid sales. Got another question for you, so thank you so much for
Sure.
taking a couple minutes to answer it for me.
No, absolutely. Thanks for having me today, John.
Yeah. So the question I have for you today is this: a lot of mediocre salespeople in the hearing aid space, a lot of those salespeople who are kind of middle of the pack, lower of the pack. What I find is oftentimes they don't even recommend the higher dollar or the best hearing aids out there to the clients. They always kind of recommend the recommendations always start in the middle or sometimes even on the lower end. So my question to you is, why in the world do they do that, and how does that impact the whole sales conversation, the experience? I mean, everything.
Well, that's a very, very good point. And I think a lot of salespeople, whether it be audiologist, hearing instrument specialist, whatever, have their own money threshold. They're comfortable at a $3,000 point, or they're comfortable at a $5,000 point. And even after asking all of the right questions and finding out that maybe the hearing aid at 7,500 is going to be the one that best fits this customer's needs, their recommendation is still going to be between that $3,000 and $5,000 point because that's what they're comfortable with. Part of what I train people to do is to not put your wallet on the customer, to actually make the recommendation based on what the customer's wants, needs, desires are, and then we can figure out the budget after that. One of the things that I, do with every single client is allow them to hear the best of the best of the best. And I will tell them that not everybody needs it, not everybody can afford it, and that's okay. But I think you deserve to hear the best of the best and experience that for yourself. Does that sound fair to you? And sure enough, every single time it's a yes. It is fair. So I try never to prejudge or predetermine whatever the customer's budget could or couldn't be.
Uh, Great point there, and I agree with you 100%. In some of the, I'm a sales nerd, as you know, so in some of the publications and the more scientific side of sales, we read about what's called non-supportive buy cycle, which is basically what you just referenced there, and it just means basically salespeople sell how they buy. So if they've got a threshold, as you put it, where they say this dollar amount's expensive or the hearing aid is not worth this much to me, then they make that decision for the customer instead of letting the customer decide how much money is too much or not enough or where their comfort level is. So if a salesperson is doing that, does that really have any negative impact at all? If they're going in and actually recommending a lower dollar hearing aid, what's wrong with that?
Well, that's a great question because if you're recommending the lower technology level to a customer that has a very active lifestyle and that particular hearing aid's not going to work ideally in each one of the environments that customer's in, you're not giving them the benefit of all of what they should be hearing. And typically they're going to think that, well, this hearing aid didn't really help very much because, well, I was recommended that lower technology level and it didn't do everything that I needed it to do. So you could be hurting that person for years and years to come by not even offering them the better technology at that point because they're going to develop a belief that hearing aids don't work based off of wearing a hearing aid that was probably inferior to their needs.
So what I'm hearing you say is it's from good intentions that salespeople, because of their own, threshold when it comes to money and what's expensive and not expensive and so forth, they're trying to help the customer by recommending something lower end. But what you're saying is really they're not helping at all. Long term, you might actually be doing more damage than good as far as impact on lifestyle and quality of life.
Absolutely. And that's why getting all the questions answered and drilling down and finding out exactly what level of technology should be recommended, and then not being afraid to recommend that level of technology. Um, it's okay if somebody can't afford it. That's perfectly okay. There's things that I want in life that I can't afford, and that's okay. You just have to be okay with going down in a level of technology to where something's going to fit their budget, but ultimately giving them the opportunity to get that higher level. And
Brilliant.
I
Go
guess
ahead.
most importantly, not making the decision for the customer.
Yeah, and I love your approach because the more and more we talk, it sounds like it's a very pressure-free, nurturing approach to sales that ultimately ends up, probably better than anyone else or any other process, ends up making sure that you pair your client with the right piece of technology without making any
Absolutely.
assumptions, without pushing for anything. But basically, what I hear you saying is you're just having an open, honest conversation, and they're making all the decisions along the way.
Absolutely. And like you said, that takes off the pressure. It eliminates returns, and it gives you a much happier customer base and increased referrals that way.
So I guess here's the $1 million question then. Obviously, the sales technique you teach and the way you sell is a better experience for both the salesperson and for the prospect, just much more comfortable and humane, basically. But the $1 million question is, does it actually help with sales though?
Absolutely. The technique that I use has me closing over 95% of the people that I talk to. Um, that's way above an industry average. The people that I train have increased their sales closing percentage, and we have happier customers that way, which leads to more referrals, like I was saying. It leads to less returns, and it just leads to an overall better business experience.
Awesome. Steve, as always, thank you so much for sharing with me today. Talk to you again soon.
Sounds good, John. Thank you.